Ross, Tom Duster,
Here.
Scott Holwick,
Here.
Roger Lang,
Here.
Renee Davis,
Here.
Dan Wolford,
Here.
Ken Houston,
Here.
Wes Lowry,
Here.
Kevin Bowden,
Here.
Hope Bartlett, here, Alex Merkline,
Here.
Nicole Halpin,
Here.
Chris Huffer,
Here.
Heather McIntyre is here. We do not have a council liaison right now, but we also have with us Sean Cronin and Scott Griebling from St. Vrain Left-Hand Water Conservancy District.
The liaison, is that yet to be decided?
Yes, they haven't done that yet.
Okay, very good. And I have approval of, any questions on or comments about previous month's minutes? Anybody else to bring up? So if not, can I get a motion to approve them? Dan?
Yeah.
Second?
Second.
Tom, second. All in favor? Yeah?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Kevin, you want to give us a
Sure.
status report?
The flow on the St. Vrain this morning at 8 a.m. was 25.8 CFS. The 125-year historic average is approximately 14.5 CFS for the state. Currently, the South Platte River and the St. Vrain Creek are operating under free river conditions with no calls on the St. Vrain at this time. Button Rock is currently at an elevation of 6382.6, or approximately 12,616 acre-feet in storage, which is about down 17, just over 17 feet, over 3,500 acre-feet. Union Reservoir is in a gauge height of 18.4 feet, or 6,632 acre-feet in storage, and that's down approximately 6,000 acre-feet from full. Basin reservoirs at the end of December were at 59.8% of full. Last year at this time, the reservoirs were 75% full.
Sit here so you can get to the slides.
Any questions for Kevin? Thanks, Kevin. Okay, public invited to be heard,
We don't have any. We have a special presentation though.
in place of that.
Yep. Hold on one second.
Just like to introduce Sean Cronin and Scott Griebling with the St. Vrain and Left-Hand Water Conservancy District. Give us an update on their programs for the year. And we partner with them in a lot of different things. So, Sean, I'll let you give it a shot.
Thank you, Ken. Our internet went down tonight, this afternoon with Nextlight. I left them a message. I didn't know I'd actually walked past their office on the way in. So when we leave here, if you hear yelling, it's because we didn't have internet today. Anyway, let's talk water. Next slide, please. Or do I have control?
You can control it.
Okay. Those of you who are not familiar with St. Vrain Left-Hand Water Conservancy District, our district boundaries from the west are the Continental Divide, so the left side of that map. Where you see the brown is Rocky Mountain National Park. All the green, dark green, is federal Forest Service land, wild wilderness area. Then as you go east into Longmont, past Union Reservoir, past I-25, all the way to the confluence of the South Platte. So all in all, about 300,000 acres. There are about 50 water conservancy districts across Colorado. It got created out of the Conservancy Act in 1937. We were created in 1971. All the conservancy districts largely have the same purpose out of the act, which includes education, water quality protection, and legislation. We all have a taxing authority, and as you all well know, we were on the ballot a few times over the last few years, in 2016, 2020, and again in 2024. And then there's a board of directors. Each conservancy district has a different number of board of directors. We happen to have 9, and Director Wolford is on our board. We adopted a water plan in February 2020, something we've come to this board and discussed in the past. And from that plan, we came up with what we call our 5 pillars. And so you got protect water quality and drinking water sources, safeguard and conserve water supplies, grow local food, store water for dry years, and maintain healthy rivers and creeks. And that's sort of our guiding principles in terms of how we administer our programs. As I mentioned earlier, we have been on the ballot. This is the results. The far right is the 2016, and that was what's called debrucing, where the voters said, go ahead and maintain the mill that you have at the time. And then in 2020, we asked to increase that mill with a 10-year sunset. And then in 2024, went back to the voters and said, hey, would you allow us to keep that sunset in place perpetually past 2030? And so you see the results there, 84% saying yes on the extension. Something, again, we've reported to this board in the past, we had adopted a stream management plan. We actually have a meeting coming up with many in the basin, including your staff, coming up in the next few weeks. But it has these basic initiatives, which many in the area are interested in having management activities done, which was flow management, habitat restoration, water quality improvements, and infrastructure. One idea that came out of those pillars is the use of additional storage. So we've come up with a unique way called creek improvement facilities, where we look at existing storage off-channel, look through additional exchanges, the dead storage that might exist in existing reservoirs, and how can we regulate those and manage those in such a way that we deal with environmental flows, which rolls back to that stream management plan. We've also incorporated, with the funding that was voted for in 2020 and again in 2024, what we call our partner funding program, which is used to leverage the district's dollars against other projects. You'll see City of Longmont there in the bottom left. We participated in a conservation program and many other partners where we're doing good work and leveraging the district's dollars with other federal and state grants. So all in all, you'll see the bottom graph there. In 2025, we had over 250% return on investment. In 2024, a 700% return on local dollars that were leveraged with other grant funds. As I mentioned earlier, the pillars that the district uses to administer the programs, here's highlighted in colors each of the years and each of those pillars. So that partner funding program is well utilized. Similarly, here's the red is the district map. So each of the blue dots represents a partner funding program. Some of the partner funding programs have multiple geographies, so it might be duplicated on there, but really what this is intending to demonstrate is we are diverse in how we spend that money across the district boundaries, and all the different pillars, as I mentioned earlier, being executed. One thing that is beneficial to many of the ditches, which Longmont has an interest in, is really looking at making those next generational upgrades. So this is working with the Supply Ditch Company on addressing some trouble spots, and we're launching a program this year to do that at a good number of ditch companies basin-wide. I'm going to skip over this one for time. Another one that I think Longmont is very keen and interested in is fire mitigation projects, and not only are we investing dollars up towards the Button Rock Reservoir, but also throughout the basin. And then we work with Hope and your staff on turf replacement program, and we had also funded a xeric demonstration garden. This one is certainly of interest to a lot of folks, including Longmont. For decades, or many decades, have been interested in how water is diverted out of South St. Vrain Creek down to Left Hand Creek. The ditch company actually approached us and said, would you be interested in helping us fund or funding an automation that would actually tighten up the water delivery from St. Vrain Creek to Left Hand Creek? So we gladly funded that, and that's been in place and been yielding some good results. Another one that is of interest to the community, especially here in Longmont as well, is passage projects. where we look at existing diversions and figure out a way that we could pass sediment or pass fish. This is off of Left Hand Creek, where they have truck loads, plural, of sediment that they haul out regularly throughout the year, not just annually, but regularly. So they're very interested in a project that would not only reduce that sediment load, but pass fish during certain periods of time. So we are co-leading that with the Watershed Center, our local nonprofit watershed group. Might turn this over to you.
Yeah. So one of the big ways that we are hoping to fund some of these projects and others is through the NRCS's PL 566 program. It's their watershed program. I believe we've spoken to the group on this, presented to you on this in the past. There's several projects that the city of Longmont is the co-sponsor on and kind of leading on, that the district is just helping to facilitate through the funding process. With any big federal funding process, we are learning as we go, and it is taking longer than maybe originally thought or originally communicated. So we're kind of have several groups of projects, and we are moving them through the process at different phases, and we'll keep everyone posted as we move along. And city staff has been really helpful in giving us the information we need so that we can then make those presentations and those that available to the NRCS. It's just real quickly it's to the tune of $240 million worth of projects across the district. So a really unique opportunity to leverage the watershed program to bring a lot of funding for a number of different types of projects in the district. A couple other projects I wanted to highlight. One is our ASO, our Airborne Snow Observation project, and it is using LiDAR-mounted, airplane-mounted LiDAR to measure snowpack across the basin. This is a map showing the snow-tell sites that we have in our area, kind of across Colorado. What ASO does is it provides, instead of just 3 measurements in this case, incredibly on a 3 meter by 3 meter basis, snow depths across the whole basin. Really cool program. It calculates the actual snow water equivalent instead of snow-tell sites give a % of normal, which is really useful, and it's a time series. But what this does is it actually measures the SWE volume, the water volume in the snowpack. And it also shows you how that snowpack is accumulated throughout the basin. So you can compare different basins, different tributaries, you can compare different aspects, different elevation bands. As we fly these flights, we are just learning more and more ways that this data can be used to help inform water management decision making.
How often do you do the flights?
So the flights, because they're really expensive, are we've been able to do 1 per year for the last 2 years, and we'll have another one planned this year.
And the timing of the flights, or?
We shoot for around peak snowpack. This flight was May 21st because the weather that year was so cloudy, there wasn't a good flight window until later in the month, or later in the season. This year we're shooting for sometime late March or early April.
Scott, can I interject something? So one thing that relatable to Longmont is the technology is continuing to advance, as Scott mentioned, and apparently they make the lasers a little smarter over time. And so one thing that we were not necessarily expecting, but we got last year, was they could actually tell the temperature of the snow when they shoot that. And so it's one thing to know.
You're stealing my thunder.
Oh, sorry, did you mention that? Sorry.
Real quick, we'll get back to that.
Does it measure thunder?
Yeah, exactly. It steals it from you. This is just an example of the report, and I can't remember if we send these to you automatically. If not, I'm happy to once we get the flights in. Shows the quick overview of where the snowpack is accumulated and how much there is. There's also some forest health applications. And, I didn't include it, Sean.
See?
Yes.
I knew it.
So it also does, it's actually not a direct measurement, but they use a number of tools to model what the snowpack temperature is and how close to melting it is. So snowpack can be very, very cold. Right now it's probably really cold after the last several weeks of cold weather. Last year, especially into March, it was pretty warm and like right on the cusp of melting. What that means is you get a string of hot days, you get a lot of solar radiation, and that snowpack can melt quickly. And so there was concerns about even localized flooding from snowmelt, which is not a regular occurrence, but might become a more regular occurrence as climate shifts and all of that. So we were able to reach out to some emergency management folks with the reports and say, it looks like this could be something to be aware of, and just to kind of give them an extra heads up before other forecasts made, before they actually saw the water come down the creek.
So the city of Longmont Emergency Management appreciated that information. I don't know that they messaged any differently, but they said we weren't aware of that information, so thanks for letting us know.
Yeah.
So this sounds like a big consortium kind of thing. I mean, is this like a private company that is running this, and Longmont, or I'm sorry, the Conservancy District is part of a group?
That's a great question.
Okay.
So it's a statewide effort. The Colorado Water Conservation Board is leading a kind of loose collaboration of entities that are making these flights happen. We are leading the Northern Front Range flights, which covers from Clear Creek all the way up through the Middle Fork of the Poudre. And we've banded together to make the surveys more cost effective, because you can kind of group different watersheds. And we get support from municipalities kind of all throughout that area, as well as Northern Water Conservancy.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And the state is, the hardest piece to those ASO flights is the cost. It's about $700,000 to do one flight for that area. So the Colorado Water Conservation Board is contributing the bulk of the funding this year. We are looking for more state and federal funding, sustainable funding sources, because we really believe this is the direction that snowpack monitoring needs to go to provide the type of insight into how to manage that, essentially the largest reservoir that we have. Another kind of area related to snowpack is our cloud seeding program, or our snowpack enhancement, as we like to call it. So we have 2 generators on the east slope here that seed the St. Vrain Basin. One is located just outside of Lyons, and the other is just outside of Niwot. And they are pretty simple. You can see the trailer up there, and the generator is actually just kind of like a propane burner almost, that the silver iodide, which is the seeding agent, is injected into. And the process is, when we get storms that have the right wind and moisture conditions and everything, and temperature conditions, usually storms coming from the east to the west, so you get the strong upslope winds. We turn on our generators, the silver iodide is released into the storm. It's carried up into the cloud deck, mixed with the liquid water that is not yet frozen. It's super cooled, so it exists below freezing, but because water can go down to as low as -15 before it actually is forced to freeze, the seeding agent speeds along or helps facilitate that freezing and snowflake formation process. So that's kind of what you're seeing here.
When is the last time you've done seeding?
I think we kicked on the generators for this past storm for a few hours. We have the consultant that operates our program has a meteorologist, so I get a personalized weather report for all the storms that come through, telling me exactly what the wind's going to do, when the snow's going to fall, and kind of what their plan is to operate each one. So it's pretty cool. A big question with cloud seeding is, does it actually work? This is a reference, it's an image from a research study that was done up in Idaho. And it's really, I won't get into the details, but what it's showing is they're able to use radar to actually detect a signal from cloud seeding. Cloud seeding has been known to work in a the physics of it are clearly understood and known, and it works in a laboratory environment, but proving the impact that you produce from cloud seeding in a natural environment over a large watershed is really challenging. The research is finally getting to the place where it can be showing specifically the impact. And we're working with the researchers on this to use some modeling research to determine what the impact is for our seeding efforts. So I'm excited about that as well. And this is where the generators are. This was last year's season, about 100 hours of operation. And the runoff estimates you saw there were about 1,000 to maybe 4,000 acre feet increase, depending on what the actual efficiency was, which is, there's a little bit of a guesstimate.
Third site.
What's that?
Are we working on a third site also?
We are working on putting in a third generator on the Grand Lake site to capture storms coming from the west going to the east. This is just a quick picture of kind of what typical generator dispersion looks like over our watershed. And costs, so for the first year, operations and equipment costs, the equipment was purchased by the CWCD. So that's the total cost for 1 year of operations. Future year of operations, that cost comes down because we're just paying the operating costs. When you look at it on a acre foot basis, it gets really, really affordable. And that's one of the large drivers here, is that it's, even with all the uncertainties involved in the process, on an acre foot basis, it's pretty cost effective. That's all I have. Anything else that you wanted to add?
No, just the temperature thing, but we got that.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Happy to answer questions. Thanks for letting us give you an update.
Any questions? Dan?
I'm good.
Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. How many slides was that?
I lost track.
Okay. Any agenda revisions? No?
Have none.
Okay. Well, our activity looks
Sparse.
very sparse, so. Move on to general business. And I think we need to propose a designation for a posted place for the board meetings. And the one that's in our agenda has been suggested. Any comments on the proposed location at all? We're happy with it. Somebody want to make a motion that we accept it?
Sure, I'd make that motion to designate the city's website as the official posting place for the water board public meeting notifications, with the bulletin board located at the west entrance of the Civic Center lobby as the secondary physical location for posting. And as always, feel free to contact Wes Lowry at his cell phone number. Sorry, at his official number or his official email address for questions.
Still working, is it?
Now, we'll see.
Is there a second to Scott's motion?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. Very good. Okay, Tim, give us an update on Windy Gap.
Yeah, we'll be happy to do that. Normally I'd try to show you a few pictures, but there aren't any new pictures to show, so I'll just give you a quick update. To be real honest, the project's on a semi-hold right now. The main dam, the hydraulic asphalt core contractors from Switzerland, and so he let all his folks go home for the Christmas holiday for 2 weeks. So you can understand that. And then about the time they would have fired up again, the cold weather hit. Wouldn't have really have impacted the hydraulic asphalt core, because the cold weather actually makes it set a little faster, so they can actually put it down a little more. But it did unfortunately impact the rock fill portion of the dam. They were starting to get some frozen clumps of rock fill that, from the quarry pits. So they had to wait until we get just a tiny bit warmer weather. So the actual dam itself was put on a little bit of hold. Originally, of course, you would have thought the dam would have been the critical path, but it's actually was a little bit ahead of schedule. It only has 68 days to complete it, so they'll easily be able to finish, hopefully, be able to finish the dam. Right now, actually, the critical path is all the electrical, partially because it took a little longer than anybody had envisioned to get the valve house approved for construction through Longmont County. So the building permit was held up, and so the construction of the valve house was held up. So that's now the kind of critical path. The outlet tower in the dam, they've had 2 pours, I think. They're up about 20 to 30 feet, so it's starting to look like an outlet tower, so that's going well. The one thing that, even though the hydraulic asphalt, the actual height of the dam is not going up right now, the critical part of all that was getting the rock quarried. They were struggling with that more than anything else, and the rock quarrying process and rock crushing process is still going on, and so that will get a little bit ahead of the rest of the operation, and which will keep it going even faster when they start up again. So we talked before, the valve that had to get shipped back to Germany with some bugs, been repackaged and put back on a ship. It should be about now hitting Houston, so it's hopeful that that valve will come in this week and be shipped to the construction site next week. So all of that seems to be going pretty well, and hopefully we'll be back under full construction.
So schedule-wise, no break.
Schedule-wise,
Concerns?
no, it's not, yeah, no, it's on schedule and still planned to be done this summer. In fact, they're looking now when to schedule, but it looks like we'll schedule some first fill by late summer. So, obviously, won't fill all the way, but there's currently sufficient water in the CBT system, and we're hoping to be able to pump a little bit of Windy Gap, and so we should be able to get some water in the reservoir starting this summer. So hang on, and we'll hopefully have some ribbon cutting, be able to get something scheduled. So that is a report on that.
Any comments or questions for Ken? All right, thanks, Ken. Okay, Wes?
Yeah, so I wanted to just give Water Board an update on our Beckwith change case. City staff, through its legal counsel, filed in October a change of the remaining shares of the Beckwith Ditch Company. As the board may recall, in 1987, the city of Longmont changed its then ownership, which was a little less than 50% of the company. And since that time, we've received ownership of almost 100%. There's still a couple outstanding shares, but those outstanding shareholders have given their consent to include it in this case. So we put that through in October. Objectors had 2 months to respond to that. We had a total of 8 statements of opposition to that. So we'll be working through those different, working with those different objectors to understand what their questions and concerns are, so we can get those addressed. I think we have a status conference on that coming up here next week or so, which is very common. So once that case is finalized, it'll be good for Longmont, because as you may recall, the Beckwith is one of the most senior water rights in the basin, which is probably why it received some attention. And also thanks to Scott, and I'll be giving his cell phone number at the end of the meeting too, so if people have any questions. No, but it will give Longmont some added water when it needs it. So it's we'll see what happens with our negotiations with the different objectors. But that was a pretty big effort. That was took a lot to put that together. Longmont had been working on that for years, and so to finally be able to get that done, or to this point, I think was quite an accomplishment. So hopefully we can continue to report as we move forward and get that done. So I just wanted to hit that, and then if anyone had any questions specifically, I'd try to answer them.
You say additional, how much water are you talking about that this would provide?
It's how hard it is to work with the people that are, if probably in a real rounded number, 200, 300 acre feet. Depends what the final yield is on a per share basis, and it depends on the hydrology of that year. It would depend on if we used it, like put it into storage, as opposed to running it for direct flow, but a few hundred acre feet. But it's, because it's so senior, you could kind of think of it as being there pretty reliably.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but from now till we hit planting horizon, that could add up to quite a bit of water.
Was it the county and the school district major shareholders at one point in time?
The ones that were not.
Yeah.
So there's two developers
Okay.
that own a share each, and then the Albertsons and the Safeway Kroger's organization own 2 shares. So a total of 4 outstanding of the 217 that Longmont doesn't have. But we're hopeful to have full ownership of all 100% this year. We'll see.
Anything else?
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Wes.
You bet.
Hope, how are you doing, by the way?
I'm good.
Good.
Thanks. Doing good, just trucking along. We presented the updated water efficiency plan to council a couple of weeks ago, and they accepted the latest update. So we're currently in our final draft process, and we're adding any additional comments or edits that are applicable to the latest update. So we should have a final product for you all to review in the next month or so, and then we'll be submitting it to the state for final approval. And then once it's approved, it goes on file for 7 years, and it will be our guiding plan for the conservation program for the next 7 years. So that's all.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Very good. Any questions for Hope? Okay, Alex, you got a report for us?
I do. Before I get into that, though, I just want to make an interesting note. Several months ago, I was reading one of the past future water demand evaluations for Longmont from the 80s or 90s, and I saw they noted how the Soviet Union was conducting cloud seeding operations and made a note how that might affect precipitation into the future. And look at where we're at now.
50 years behind those guys.
Sputnik's next, but.
All right, but yeah, so as we start to enter this new legislative session, sorry. Sorry, I haven't done this a lot, so.
You're good.
We got time.
So, staff will be monitoring bills that are introduced, which are most relevant to our work. So far, 4 bills have been introduced which are relevant to our department. Among those 4, one is being brought to the city council tomorrow with the recommendation to support the bill. The bill in question is regarding individuals who work on backflow prevention devices and the removal of the licensure requirement for individuals who inspect, test, or repair the devices. And that one, again, will be going to the city council tomorrow for recommendation, I believe brought by the city legal representation. And among other legislation, there's a water project eligible list. There are no Longmont projects included on that. The water resources staff doesn't take any particular stance on that one. Another is increasing efficiency division of water resources, which changes the length of permit for ground well construction, which extends it from 1 year, I believe, by another year to 2 years. I believe again with that one, staff takes no particular stance. And the final of those 4 is future of severance taxes and water funding task force. And that is aiming at creating a task force to look at the future of severance taxes and funding and water funding. And again, with that one, the staff just takes no particular stance. And continuing into the future, water resources staff will ensure we continue to follow what legislation enters and try and see what stance we may or may not have on it.
So any concerns of what may be coming out of the legislature that would impact us?
The only one would probably be the one regarding the backflow light, or the one that's going to be going to city council tomorrow. But we support it in the fact that it should make backflow inspections an easier task, given they wouldn't need a license to do such.
A little tiny bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Why would you not have a license? What really happened is you've got people get plumber's license, do all types of plumbing. But you had to get a specialty license to get the backflow device. And so there are a lot of plumbers out there, a lot of people have plumbing licenses, but very few people would have the ability to have the extra license for backflow. Quite honestly, backflow device is pretty easy to install. It's really honestly similar to many plumbing things. So basically this will then allow the plumbers. If you have a plumbing license, you can install the backflow device. And so that was really just to make it seemed like a redundant license.
This is actually corrective legislation, Roger. Last year, they passed legislation which had an unintended effect of creating an incredible backlog because there weren't enough supply of people that were licensed to do what needed to be done that could do it. So they had to do an emergency session to have a workaround in the last session, and this is correcting the legislation that they passed to allow supply and demand to be in equilibrium. Because they restricted it so much that nobody could do it, and therefore nobody could get anything approved, right? Because there's nobody there to approve it. So
It's good news.
it's good news, it's just weird. It's a weird way of bringing legislation because it was done because the legislation from last year wasn't thought out very well.
Legislative process.
Glad to hear that.
I know, right?
Anything else, Alex?
That is it for now.
And hopefully having these links will be helpful if like for example, that City of Longmont Legislative Affairs link, when we submitted the packet, it read differently than you would find today. So if you were to click on that City of Longmont Legislative Affairs link, it'll pop up the city's taking to City Council tomorrow on particular items. So not just water-related items, but any of city interest, you'll find under the City of Longmont Legislative Affairs link. And so we're hopeful that this makes it more efficient for any of you that want to go out and find either specific water ones that might be of interest or just in general with the City of Longmont. So that's why we've kind of done it this way. And we'll continue to do it this way for the forthcoming months until they adjourn in May.
So who's our city rep
Sandy.
Sandy down there. You see it?
Sandy's the one, so if she has any, needs some input, she reaches out to select staff to provide input.
Okay.
Mhm.
I follow up. So does anybody at Longmont actually sit on state affairs, or do you guys have a conduit of municipal league people that do that on behalf of water, or is it just the generic legislative liaison for the city?
Sandy Cedar, she doesn't actually sit, I don't think she sits on the State Affairs Committee, but
Yeah.
she kind of takes over for the whole city.
Yeah.
And she looks at every single bill, and then she parses them out to, you know, it's water, to transportation, to engineering, and that kind of stuff. So she keeps real close tabs on it. And I'm pretty sure we don't have a legislative liaison anymore. We used to have one, but
Right, no, I know there's other entities out there, I just didn't know if we had a specific person that was involved in any of those sub.
yeah, it's really Sandy Cedar trying.
Yeah. And do you, Ken, I don't know if I don't know the answer to this, but with the proposition that was passed by the voters last year to reallocate dollars from gambling revenue towards water projects, do you know how that's been implemented, if at all yet? I haven't paid any attention. It dawns on me that they're talking about budget shortfalls this year. There's supposed to be additional budget dollars for water projects. I just
I
haven't-
have not heard that they've allocated any.
Yeah, I just didn't know what their protocols were for
Um,
having extra money and using it in the fashion that was intended by the voters.
Yeah, I think I'm just kind of take it for granted that it'll happen. And I don't know anybody that's following up on how much came in from gambling and how much has gone out.
Well, we had up to the $29 million part already, so we probably haven't gotten anywhere near that since that proposition passed. But I'm just curious how that's going to be extended. So, figured you guys might know.
Okay. Other staff updates.
Yeah, I just have a couple real quick ones. There weren't even items. The one is, we've talked in the past a little bit about our forest stewardship plan up at Button Rock, and we've reported on a number of the thinning projects that we've done. One of the aspects of thinning is then you end up with material you thin. And so uniquely with the weather, we had snow and then we had 3 or 4 days of below zero weather. So we had done the thinning project at the inlet of the reservoir, and the weather allowed us, because we had a real great snowpack. In fact, normally we wouldn't have burnt any piles, but because we had enough snow and then the cold weather to keep the snow there, and as you looking around, we've had snow for a week and a half now. Last Saturday, we were able to burn the piles in one of our there we go. So this is Ralph Price Reservoir. This area around here at the inlet, about 3 or 4 years ago, we did a cut here. The piles, the branches and that smaller diameter trees were all piled. And so this is what it looked like a week ago Saturday. They were able to start those piles. And you can see they're out in the open, plenty of snow that kept around. So about 258 piles were burnt on that Saturday, which is, quite a few. Takes a little bit, but it takes 3 to 4 days for them to completely burn down. But with cold weather, we stayed, and even afterwards, the rangers were still smiling. So that's just wanted to give you a quick update and let you see what it was like to do some of those pile burns. Ironically, they were at the same time, the same last week, just because of the particular weather. The U.S. Forest Service burned a whole bunch of piles up at Pearson Park, which is halfway between Button Rock and the Peak to Peak Highway, just on this side of the Twin Sisters. They burned so many piles that you literally could see the smoke from going up. And we got few calls about it, but that was burning. And the National Park Service just today sent out a notice that they're gonna do some burns in Rocky Mountain National Park over the next couple days up by Allen's Park. So, and then this Saturday, I believe it's this Saturday, Boulder County's gonna do a couple pile burns in Hall Ranch. So just kind of a unique, it might be sometimes 3 years before you can get the conditions reasonable and safe enough to do pile burns. And so they happened this last week, so everybody's out burning piles. So just thought I'd let you know that. And the other thing I wanted to let you know is that not last Tuesday, but the Tuesday before, City Council did, this coming Tuesday, tomorrow, City Council will be reviewing the resolution for the cash and move. So we were finally able to get that all together and approved, and it's on the City Council agenda to be approved. It's a resolution, so it'll be on consent, probably won't even be pulled off consent, so it'll pass on the overall consent. And then if that passes, it'll still be set up as Water Board recommended to increase on May 1st this year. So it'll give us a few months to contact all the development community to make sure they're all aware of it before it actually happens. And I think that's going to be much better. And then in March, we'll have our quarterly review. And when we do that, we'll come back to Water Board to report on that and the cash and move, but also to talk further about how we continue to move the cash and move program forward. So that's well, I have on cash and move.
Well, those dates that we agreed on with May, has that information been given to the City Council? Are they well aware of that?
Yes, that's actually in the write-up. So it says it. And they were actually, both the city's administration, city manager, and they wanted that little bit of time, and it's in the council packet.
Who's hiding there behind you, Alan? See him sliding in.
I did, yeah. I was on a water conservation project. I was moving snow to parts of my garden that needed it.
Oh.
I lost track of time, sorry.
Okay, well, any comments on what's coming before City Council? Is that familiar to you?
Ken did a really good presentation. I thought it was very thorough, answered questions before we even had a chance to ask them. And I think it's a go all the way around. Yeah.
And before you got here, we were talking, I guess, your group has not decided who the council liaison is going to be for all the different committees?
No, we haven't decided to decide yet.
Okay.
We think we might talk about renegotiating it, or we may just wait until December, when we have another election coming up here in November, So we might renegotiate, or we may just kind of pick and choose, see what the new guy, what his schedule's like. So we just haven't had a discussion about deciding that. And it may just be that those of us that have filled in continue, but just for my own, I'd love to keep coming back to Water Board, so
Yeah.
if that would continue to see me.
We'd like to have you here, getting to know you a little bit, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious. All right. Well, that's what I was wondering about, Kenneth, if that was going on tomorrow night, and everybody's all right with it, so. Okay. Any comments on major projects coming up for our consideration? Everybody get a chance to take a look at that? Doesn't look like there's any big surprises to me, so. Any other informational items, Ken?
No, they were included in your packet.
Okay. And then, these are the dates we're targeting every quarter, so thus establishing the new dates, hopefully we'll get this ironed out so it'll flow and everything will work out and it'll happen.
It will.
Be approved and go forward next January. So I think it's a good process. It'll be better than what we've been doing. And everybody can plan on the date, so. Okay, that's all I have got. Anybody have anything else?
Next meeting will be February 24th because of President's holiday, so it will be the fourth Monday of the month.
Well, with that, we'll adjourn.
Thanks, Roger.
That's